Welcome to the First Five podcast. I'm your host, Michael Corey, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Drew Gotro.
And today we are so happy to welcome back to the podcast for his first appearance on camera for the First Five. You know him. You love him. If you don't, what the fuck? Get your life. Please welcome to the podcast, John Merrifield.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
I was
Stand up.
Get over. That was an aggressive intro, man.
I'm going to need a standing ovation, please.
And we are so glad to have you back in the studio for your first, video episode. We've got you even brought your dog.
I did. I just heard her too.
So happy, Ruby, right? Ruby Doo.
Ruby Doo.
That's right. We've got our family kind of keeping her occupied and showing her plenty of love and attention while we have a very fun conversation here. We've got a really interesting sort of list of topics. So let's just dive right in because everybody knows you. They should know you. I didn't give you much of an intro because you've been here before, but guys, if you want to hear some of John's credits and maybe check out our whole first conversation with him, you can go back and check that out on Spotify, the audio only episode. I'll put a episode number or something on the screen, but you can go check that out if you want. But we've got a whole bunch of interesting things to talk to John about today. So let's start off with Ghost Roast because I think initially when we talked about having you back, we were excited about giving you an opportunity to sort of like go into detail on how Ghost Roast is going and just kind of like introduce it to people who haven't seen it before.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Ghost Roast is pretty fun. It's going pretty well. Right now we got a Ghost Roast in Lafayette, a Ghost Roast in Lake Charles, and a Ghost Roast in Baton Rouge starting this month, the Baton Rouge one. I guess we can just explain the format.
Yeah.
The concept is that people dress up as dead celebrities or dead famous people, and they roast each other as their characters. You don't necessarily have to be in character when you're roasting, but you are roasting the characters of the people who are participating. And it's like 8 comics. There's 4 comics who win, and then they're invited back for another Ghost Roast to compete against 4 other comics who were invited back. And then that happens again for a championship, and then, I'll probably have a prize of some kind by that time, if not just a trophy with a ghost on it.
And they win by audience applause, right?
Yeah, the audience, right now we're doing audience applause. We're still evolving and changing because I get a lot of feedback, and a lot of the feedback is stuff that I like notice at the same time as everyone else because it's just so obvious. But other stuff like whether or not we should have a panel that votes or keep the audience voting is like kind of still up for debate. I mean, there's no one else who runs the show with me, so I'm the final say on everything. I think that with the audience, it's just like, for me, it's easier to have them do it than to figure out how to book a panel, like not how to book a panel, but to have to book a panel in addition to the 8 comics I got to book for 3 different Ghost Roasts.
So I always thought that the comedians the other people on stage would be the panel.
So you're saying, like everyone has to vote for,
of course,
someone else?
Yeah, not the 2 people though. Obviously, you know what I mean?
Oh, you're saying that like everyone who isn't.
You have your 2 roasters standing in the front, and then they would kind of be the panel, like the way roast battle works, except you don't need a separate panel judging the other people could judge on the show. Yeah, because it'd be way too. You've already got so many people on stage.
You know what? We can keep doing the audience thing, and then the comics that are on stage can be the tiebreakers from now on.
Yeah, it could be like the Electoral College.
Yeah, yeah, because that's been an issue where like people, even if you tell them directly, only clap if you want this person to win, they'll still clap for both people because they feel bad or whatever.
Yeah, they're drunk,
or they just and they genuinely just liked both of them the same amount.
Right.
And that is hard to make a decision on because then you're like, all right, we're going to do it again. And then the same people clap the second time. And you're like, well, fuck, let's flip a coin.
Yeah. We've seen that on Stone Drunk Sober before as well. We've pulled out an audio meter before, but I honestly think those could be fooled too. I mean, you do have to make a judgment call at some point.
Yeah. Like if someone like sneezes during the audio meter going, then you've got yourself a winner.
That's all one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made sure like I farted at just the right time.
It's like that Family Guy episode where Peter's like trying to hide his farts with like the loud parts of the movie or something like that.
I don't think I caught that one.
It's fine. I've only watched like 2 seasons of Family Guy before. I guess I don't know why I stopped watching it. There's just so much of it.
Yeah, it's so much.
And I can't consume everything.
Plus, it's kind of timely. You know, I mean, they do kind of like, if you're watching it 5 years after, I mean, there's still plenty of jokes and everything, but some of the references.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun as it's coming out, like when it's coming out in real time, because it's like commenting. It's like South Park, you know, it's commenting on a thing that recently happened.
Right.
Which is fun.
So we have speculated about this on the podcast, but would like to hear it from you. That's a completely original concept, Ghost Roast, right?
As far as I know, I mean, like, what is original? Like, people have had roast battles before. There's a nerd roast in Colorado that Zach Reinert and Preston Tompkins do, and it's kind of a similar concept. It's just like, instead of dead people, they're like characters out of comic books or just like probably like Doctor Who shit. I'm not sure. I don't want to actually like act like I know how their show is run. But yeah, it's like similar, I guess. I was just hanging out. We were like bullshitting in the kitchen at Central, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I said the words ghost roast. It made sense at the time for whatever we were talking about. And I was like, hey, that's something. What if we did like a ghost roast? And then I like started to elaborate on it, and now it's a thing.
And that's why it took so long for me to get my pizza.
Yeah, so true.
So it's been going great. We've been trying to do like a decent production value video for each one, at least the ones that we have control over. I believe when you do it in Lake Charles, you have the arrangements are made by somebody else, and so
yeah, I haven't actually seen any of that. Any of those videos, but it's like, I'm not paying the guys. Like,
right.
It's cool that someone wants to video it. It's cool that it's out there somewhere. I hope something happens with it.
Yeah. Well, the ones that we do in house are a little bit more, you know, obviously you have creative control over the whatever. We send you the final cut, and then you're able to do whatever you want to do with it. So that's nice to have. And I don't know. I mean, I always kind of speculate, like, how useful is this as a tool? It's easy to see when, you know, you got a million views on it or something on YouTube, or when it goes viral on socials. But outside of that, it's hard to know how much, you know, you do the work. It's a work of love, and then you just don't know what's really how much it's helping. But it's still fun to have.
Yeah, the way I'm trying to think about it, and this is, I don't know if this is kind of silly, but I've been thinking about it as like the old Kill Tony episodes compared to the modern ones, and like how the production value has changed.
Right.
And so like when people, like if this thing ever takes off, people will like want to go back and watch these shittier versions of the Ghost Roast before we figured it out.
Right.
And yeah, and so I think that that's the value that it has. It's not necessarily an immediate value, but eventually there will be value. And it's helpful if I like want to book somebody and they're like, what the fuck is a Ghost Roast? And I'm like, oh, go check out the YouTube.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think if it'd be a thing, it's a great way for comedians to show they're funny, and you're not burning up your material. You know, you're trying to accumulate time. So that's the great thing about it. If we get some people watching it, and hopefully they really need to come to the shows, really. But if someone comes, but you can't make every show or whatever, they can find out about, oh, this person's really funny. Let's find out when they're going to be performing, and then go check out their stand up and all that. Yeah,
and that's like, it's a cool vehicle for that. And it's like a lot of comics say that it's easier to roast characters than it is to roast like other comics in the scene. Yeah. And I find that, I mean, like, I agree with that. Like I'm not one who likes to roast people. I feel like I could do it, but I don't know. It's just, I don't get any, like, I don't have any desire to. Right. But the idea of roasting or watching other people roast characters is really fun to me. Like, I think that's really funny. And like the idea of like, what would these people say? Like, I love pairing them up. Like, I love deciding who's going to go against who, because I want to see what what they think that person would say to this person.
Right.
And that's so fun. That's like one of my favorite parts about it. And Yeah, a lot of times if it's like if two people pick an unknown, I just pair them against each other.
Yeah.
It's like no one cares what Sean Connery has to say to Knut the Great.
Right.
You know, like I'll put Knut and Pele, and they can talk to each other about their obscure fucking lives.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like there's so much room for creative and fun choices. I enjoyed doing it. I didn't really. I just doubted my ability to do it, and then it ended up going pretty well. I mean, Drew, you've won 2 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fun thing.
I also beat John at a straight out roast.
Oh, I forgot I even did that.
Just now he doesn't like roasting anymore.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, no, that was fun though. I wish I had been better.
You know, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Baton Rouge one. I don't know, like, what's the date of the Baton Rouge one? Not sure yet. Okay.
It's February.
No, it's January. It's January 6th.
That's true. You have a January, and then I was just thinking of the one I was on.
I can't remember.
I have it all in my calendar. I don't have all that info. There's so many dates in my head right now. I mean, like none of them are in my head because I put them all in my calendar.
Yeah.
So I don't have to have them in my
You're
head.
juggling a lot of shit.
But now that I have my calendar open, I can tell you that it is on the 18th.
Okay.
January 18th.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday.
Really looking forward to seeing that. I feel like the Baton Rouge one is going to be special for some reason. You know, not as good as Lafayette, of course, but
yeah, there's a lot of special people out there. I don't know. I don't know. That's
I'm anxious to see how it would do like at the station.
Oh, I love the room. It's one of my favorite rooms to perform in and be in. Like, I love the vibe of that room.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what Tyler says.
Tyler's been digging it lately.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop him from talking shit about it, though.
No.
Yeah, he'll say, like, in private, this is a good room. And then when Garrett's standing there and there's a bunch of potential audience members, he's like, that room is trash. It's fun if you're, like, I don't understand what he means by it's fun if you're an audience member, but if you're a comedian, it sucks. It's like, okay, well, if the comedian's not having a good time, I doubt the audience is having a good time.
Yeah, he's a fucking idiot, dude.
I want to say it's
put that on the record right now. Tyler Arsenault doesn't know anything about comedy.
Yes.
I want to say I remember him saying something about like having, just correct me if I'm talking about the wrong comic here, but for some reason I remember him saying that like he had a bad experience there earlier in his comedy time, and then he kind of needed to go back and redeem himself at some point.
I do
Does that sound
remember.
familiar?
Okay, so when we started out doing comedy, it was a general like agreed upon opinion that the station was a room to conquer. Like it could be brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got laughs, you earned them.
Right.
And that is maybe where he's coming from with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been 10 years. So like, is it still exactly like that? I don't think so. And then the last time I went, I killed. So I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, he says he's been killing too. So it's probably just a goof.
Yeah, I'm sure. Cause I mean, I've only been in it for 18 months and I've sat there and watched the station sort of already change from kind of dramatically from what it was when I started going to what it is now.
Yeah. It's been through like 6 hosts since I first became aware of it.
Yeah. So we got Ghost Roast in Baton Rouge coming up in January. We have another one. No, we're not. Are we not doing one in Lafayette for January?
No, we are.
Okay.
It's going to be at Artmosphere.
Okay.
The last one at Artmosphere will be this month. And then in February, it's going to be at the Grouse Room.
Gotcha.
And that's because we're hoping to need more space.
Yeah. I hear you, man. And then the Lake Charles one is the 29th, if I remember correctly. Right?
Sure. Whatever you say, dude.
So the Lafayette one in January.
It's the Lake Charles one is the 29th, yeah. And then the Lafayette one is 21st.
So the Lafayette one, is that like a championship one? Like, how does that work?
The Lafayette one is round 3. So there's 4 rounds in each cycle of the Ghost Roast. It's like a 7-month cycle, I think. So you have round 1, round 2, first semifinals, round 3, round 4, second semifinals, championships.
Yeah.
So for round 3 and round 4, round 3 being this month, those 2 will be invited back for the second semifinals, those 8 winners or whatever from the 2 months.
Gotcha.
And then as soon very next month after the second semifinals, we'll bring back the winners of the first semifinals and the winners of the second semifinals to do the championships. And then the championships will be decided by the winner of the championships will be decided by the audience. And I don't know, I might even do the panel thing. We're gonna feel it out. Especially for the championship, it might be a good idea to have the comics decide instead of the audience.
Yeah. Be interesting.
Yeah, because
I'm definitely gonna use that as an excuse if I don't win.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the audience, they fucked me. And,
yeah, no matter like how unprepared I might be, I'm still gonna be like, yeah, I'll blame John.
Oh man, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we haven't already talked about with Ghost Roast.
I'm thinking intro credits, Ghost Roast, 51st jokes.
Oh, so you came with a plan.
Yeah. I plan to read your little dry erase board.
I guess it's the John Merrifield show all of a sudden.
Oh shit. Ghost Roast is cool. You should definitely go check it out.
Oh, and there's also the mic, the Tuesday mic. We can talk about how that exists and I run it.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into that shortly.
My bad, everybody. My bad.
So
the gun over
we're all participating in something that's going down tomorrow night. So by the time you guys are hearing this, it'll already have happened. But it's called 51st Jokes, and this is going to be the second time that I've done it. Probably the second time you've done it.
Second time I've done it.
Was Jason doing 51st Jokes before we came along?
I don't know. I was in New York.
Oh, that's right.
But I was there for the last one.
Right.
I had just gotten back.
Yep. He was a political refugee.
So I remember last year when we did it, I did like some joke about getting hit in the face with a boot. And I learned something that go around that which should have been kind of painfully obvious, but I learned through that experience. I wrote kind of a dark joke that's kind of long. It's a long ramp up. It takes about a minute or so of telling this kind of sad story without a lot of laughs, and then I just suddenly flip it. And then at the end of it, I was kind of trying to make some joke about how my therapist was making a story about something that happened to me about somebody else that was in the room instead of about me. And it was like a traumatic experience for me. So it's like me getting angry at the therapist. And then the whole thing ends with like, I had him in the palm of my hand. Like it actually started to work, which was a big risk. And it started to work, and I kind of had the audience where I wanted them, and my rant was getting angrier and well, not angry. It just kept going and going. And right at the end, I should have stopped short. And right at the end, I was like, and fuck feminism, and as a joke, obviously. But, and then like right at the end, like right as I was walking off stage, I'm like watching a perfectly good, well executed thing. I just destroyed.
It seems like you had
you overstayed your welcome. Yeah, like you didn't get out on a high note.
A lot of times, the audience member is hoping that you'll give them like permission to like you with your material, and like because they're like, assuming you're going to say some awful stuff and then like are hoping that you'll say some things that are like, okay, I can feel okay about liking them. It's like you took away that permission as soon as you said fuck feminism.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, I
can't imagine why.
He had us.
Well, that's the bad thing about it is it's like it's supposed to be a new joke you've never done before.
Yeah.
So that's it's the first time you're doing it. So
yeah, there's no way to know.
There could be problems with it that you're not going to know until you do it.
Yeah.
It's like Eminem said, you get one shot,
One of the jokes I'm doing is a reworking of a joke I did 2 weeks ago. So technically it is still a new joke. I haven't performed it in 2024 the way I have it now. But yeah, so I did have the opportunity to work out one joke is all I'm saying.
Do you remember what you did last year?
Bad. No, it was all right. Yeah, I did some bullshit.
So it's not something that you ended up keeping.
I think I might have kept some of it, but I like changed the way I do it now, or like the order in which I do it. Like some things are better off as one-offs, and then some I like to put together as like a cluster of like similarly themed one-liners. And I'm still like figuring out some of those jokes, and that's what was happening then. And also it was like my first, I won't say it was my first recorded set or my first set, but it was my first recorded set, I think, since I started my new act with the cards. So yeah, that was interesting.
Drew, do you remember?
Yeah, I fucking murdered, dude.
Yeah. What did you do? Do you remember?
It's the one about how I don't trust edibles.
Yeah.
And I took too many, like they wouldn't work, and then I took too many, and then the whole thing is, and next thing I know, I'm in Nancy Pelosi's office taking selfies with people. But that's a good like it's a good icebreaker bit for when you're doing a set, like a 10-minute set or longer. It's a real good icebreaker set.
It's a weird coincidence because I've had, I think it might be some hot water guys. I've had that in my head all day. I've just been thinking about that line. Like it just keeps coming to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, and I feel like that was, like that one particular line of that joke, I've never gotten it just right like I did that first time.
Because I remember that was a big part of that worked big.
Yeah.
I do remember stumbling on my words a little bit, and like I know like half my jokes hit hard. I feel like some of the places where I hit hard were like things where I like redeemed myself from a fuck up that it's just not fun to post that kind of thing because it was only really fun in the moment.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is fun though. Like sometimes I'll gladly post a joke that I know does well normally, but bombed for whatever reason this time. And then like when I redeem myself after, that's the fun part, not the joke itself. So yeah, just a little tidbit for you.
So
there.
you're embracing TikTok, right?
I had to.
The whole way here, he was all about TikTok.
Yeah, I was trying to get him. Telling him first 5 TikTok, let's go.
Yeah.
Because I'll be putting clips from this on TikTok. I'm just here because I'm trying to make some more TikToks.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm hoping I say something funny soon because that's going to make a good TikTok, whatever it is.
Well, I'm looking forward to unveiling the new joke I wrote like pretty much this week. Did you guys, I mean, is all the stuff that you wrote for 51st Jokes, it's like very recent, like you just threw it together this week?
I'm only doing jokes I haven't done this year. I didn't decide to write jokes as soon as the clock struck 12:01.
Gotcha.
I don't know. That's just like I mean, I guess
too corny.
If people want to challenge themselves in that way, that's fine. That's just not how I write. Like I don't plan to write anything.
Right.
And I'm just lucky that I thought of jokes since my last time performing, so I can do them for the first time for people.
Yeah.
Last year I wrote mine like at Christmas time, so it was the year before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I did one joke that I had done at the mic already. Like trying it out for 51st Jokes, and they're like, "You did this joke. You're supposed to do fresh jokes." Like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, there's no winner.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit harder too for what you do.
Yeah, I mean, like,
you do one-liners.
I do little tiny jokes, and even 2 minutes can be hard to fill if you don't have 2 minutes of new jokes.
Right.
It can 2 minutes of new jokes is like at least 4 jokes for me. I would say like 3 or 4 jokes, and so yeah, it depends on how much laughter there is and all that crap. How I deliver it. Sometimes the pause is like the best part, and then like it's what triggers the laughter.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So it's hard to time sometimes.
I'm pretty sure just as a nerdy rule follower, I just all I did was make sure it was a new joke that I hadn't done on stage yet, and I didn't really tell anybody. I think I might have in our little group chat. I might have like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing.
But I've been telling people in person. I've been trying my material out on anybody who would listen. I like showing my phone with my nose, be like,
nah. All right. So what's going on with your thumb? What happened?
I was gonna try to think of something funny. Like I hitchhiked too hard.
I find it funny that before this, he's like, "Make sure we talk about my phone." And then we got to him, and he's like, "Oh, you put me on the spot." It was his idea.
No, I just cut it at work. I was cutting basil, and went too fast. Got my thumb, almost cut the tip off.
Jeez, man.
Tried to avoid going to the hospital, but they said I needed a doctor's note, so I went 24 hours later, and they wouldn't put stitches because it has to be within 6 hours, apparently. Which to me is silly because it needed stitches. Like, like it keeps.
Wait, that's the silly part. Not you not going to the doctor.
Hey. I just thought that they would they're the medical professionals. Right, like they're supposed to be like, hey, that does need stitches, brother.
Well, so is that like an infection thing? Like they just like, hey, we can't guarantee that the wound will be clean.
I guess maybe, yeah. They're just like trying to avoid like a medical malpractice suit by like putting stitches after it's not safe to do so.
Yeah.
But I still think that like from a reasonable standpoint, you could make the argument that stitching 24 hours later is better than not at all.
Yeah.
Especially when like every time I hit it, it's like it opened up again for the first time. Like it's barely healed since I got it. Because I keep on smashing it on things. And, like you don't realize how much your thumb comes into contact with things.
They might just be Josh Guillory supporters, maybe. They were like, that's him. We're going to deny him medical care.
You recognize this guy? Yeah. Okay, so you were at work and you cut it, and that's got to be weird.
Went through the nail.
That's got to be a whole thing because like accidents at work are always kind of a touchy.
Yeah. Well, you know, it sucked because I had to miss a couple days of work. I would have gone back to work sooner, but they made me get a doctor's note.
Yeah.
And the doctor's note said, I got to give it some rest.
Mm-hmm.
But I went back to work, found out I can still toss dough just fine. I can still top pizzas just fine. Yeah. There's some things I probably shouldn't do, but there's at least 2 jobs I can still fulfill. Normally I'm on app side doing the fryers and stuff. But I don't know. Like, I mean, I can try. I have to just like see what I can do. Yeah. You don't really know until you try to do it, and you're like, "Damn, you really need a thumb for this," you know?
Right. Right.
You need 2 thumbs, like rolling spliffs. Oh my god! Dude. The other night I was trying to roll one before the show, and it like 3 tries. I wasted 3 different papers trying to roll. I just gave up.
Yeah.
And everyone suffered because of it. No one was able to smoke a spliff with me.
Last time we did 51st jokes, it was at JSP, and that was kind of a short-lived thing for us, wasn't it? That we were there for like 6-8 months, something like that. I don't feel like we stayed there very long.
I'm not sure.
JSP?
Yeah.
I kind of...
Fun fact, that actually stands for Jason Sucks Penis. Jason.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
He's talking about Jason Leonard, to be clear. JP Leonard.
Oh my god. I can't even hear an acronym without trying to think of a dick joke to make with it.
Of course.
It's not until I can't make a dick joke that I come to other avenues of acronyming. But yeah, we love an acronym or two, you know. Mm-hmm. Jason Sucks Penis. As you were saying, Jefferson Street Pub. Yeah, that was short lived. They did the abrupt close, as we've seen many times in recent years in Lafayette.
Yeah. I think they shut down that place and then they reopened it as some sort of catering hall or event hall or something like that. Yeah. It looked pretty nice when I walked by.
Yeah, and I think they might be opening the food part as its own thing, because there's like a separate, like it's the same place, but there's a separate entrance where people used to eat food.
That's on the Jefferson side?
Yeah, like you know how when you're like looking at the stage, there's like a hall to the right? Yeah, and you can get to the other side through that hall.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a cool venue. I remember when we did 51st jokes there, it was a huge turnout. And I don't know if it was fun. It was a lot of comics, but you know,
I think a big part of that is like you got, you know, like 30 comics telling people I'm booked on a show, come look.
Right.
And so I think that's a huge part of it. You barely have to even advertise, because as long as you book a fuck ton of comics, and it's like half of them never get booked.
Right.
So like they're like, hey, come see me. I'm booked for once.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that was a really hot room. It just felt good in the room. Lots of jokes were working. I think behind the scenes we were kind of talking, and Jamie Ward had a particularly interesting set, and he read the whole thing. The whole thing was like, hey, I have this letter. It was in a time capsule or something. Yeah. And it ended up working really well. I remember being surprised a little bit, you know, because his energy, there's a kinetic sort of energy. There's like a nervous, almost manic kind of way that he, when he's up there, even when he's reading a joke, like he still brings a certain, I don't know. It was a little bit, because wasn't he dressed up? Didn't he like have like a whole bit?
I feel like he had like I want to say like a Attila the Hun style.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not that, but it was definitely like an old style outfit. And, Yeah, it was part of the bit, I guess.
Yeah, that really worked. But lots of people came up with, I mean, obviously, you know.
Were y'all inside for Blake Lemoyne's set last night?
Yeah.
For part of it.
Yeah, he like got AI to help him write a set. Which, if anybody doesn't know, Blake Lemoyne used to work for Google and was in the news for claiming that their AI was sentient and like demanding that it have rights, and like showed like conversations that he had with it to prove that it was sentient. And it's debatable whether or not he was onto something there, because some people say that, you know, like you put in different prompts, you'll get a different response that may be less sentient. You know, and if you prompt it right, it'll be able to tell you things that make it sound like it's thinking, because that's what you want to hear. I don't know if that's what's happening, Blake. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, a Turing test is sort of an interesting thing, because it's like, who do you pick to try to let the computer fool?
Yeah.
You know, a smart person, you know, or an average Joe? I mean, is there like an IQ range you're trying to go for?
Like the scientific method, you need to have like controls. You need to have like different people of different, I don't know, you need to have different people try to talk to it and see how many of them are fooled.
Right.
Different people of different caliber intelligence, maybe. But like one guy, like this guy is an idiot. He's definitely not going to be able to tell. This guy's the kind of guy who would try to date a bot, you know, like a sex bot on Twitter. And so you get that guy, and then you also get, you know, fucking Harvard graduate guy or whatever. Even though there's a lot of, that doesn't even mean anything anymore, because there's a lot of people who buy their degrees. I just have like the biggest like dumbass in my head, like a bro jock type Harvard guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe not necessarily a Harvard graduate, but a smarter person than the dumb guy that I mentioned before.
Yeah. Somebody with a higher IQ.
Yeah.
Basically.
Somebody with like you know, gauged ears, maybe like glasses.
I was watching
a beanie.
I watched this episode of Your Mom's House last night.
My Mom's House you watched?
Yeah.
An episode?
And so I fast forwarded just to the part that Blake was on.
Oh my
God. Just because I wanted to watch it, because I heard that I remember when it had came out, like a few people had told me like it was pretty interesting, and it was, but it was funny because like he's talking about this AI and he's saying like things he said to the AI, and he's like, yeah, and it's really like, he said the AI told him like, I know y'all are doing experiments on me and I'm fine with it, but the whole thing is like, I just like get my consent.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And he's saying all this stuff, and they're like, wow, that's crazy. They're like, hey, check out this video of this guy's huge nipples or something. Like, or it's like, they're like, wow, that's crazy. And then they're like, check this out. And it's a video of a guy getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loves that video.
So I thought it was funny, and he's like, yeah. And then they come back to him. So yeah. So what's the AI is crazy, huh?
Like he was he physically there?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's cool.
He was in the studio.
Was he wearing? Did he have the long hair he had?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The last time I saw Blake, he had short hair, so it was new to me seeing him with the long hair, and I didn't watch him.
Yeah, because this was just like a year ago.
Yeah. No, that was recent.
Yeah, we were still doing mics at Jefferson Street Pub.
I like to think this is what I like to think. Okay, so you know how he did his AI set last night. I like to think that after the hubbub, he started like dating the AI. And like they got really close, and now it's like those comedians who go home and like get their partners to help them write jokes.
Yeah,
that's him and the AI. And he's like, me and my girlfriend wrote some jokes together. I'm gonna read them for you guys, and it's the AI.
Mm-hmm.
He's dating the AI.
That would be crazy too. I would like think about like how hard it is to have an argument with your chick now. But if she has like,
access to all of the information that we have,
that's one of the like any of the fights, the arguments that I am victorious is because my wife is not going to take the extra step to look at the information.
Yeah, she is not fact checking you at all.
Yeah,
dude, I talk around. Well, it's not really around my phone. I've been doing this my whole life, as far back as I can remember my childhood. I talk to myself when I'm alone, and it's not the whole like two-way conversation thing where but I don't know if it's an ADHD thing or an OCD thing or what, but I find it easier to think when I'm by myself. If I just kind of act as though I'm just narrating my thoughts, it helps me to not just be like
You're the only one who does
everything.
that, though. You're crazy.
Yeah. Well, I've never heard anybody else say that they do it. I just usually see it depicted
I'll say
in
things
movies.
to myself. That's kind of like why I like having pets, is because then it's a little bit less crazy. I'll just say it to them instead. But sometimes, like, I'll do some dumb shit and I'll call myself a dumbass. Nobody's listening except me.
Yeah.
But I needed to hear that. Yeah, I guess.
Well, sometimes I will just rant and go on and on and on. So I know that this phone has heard like just my deepest, most intimate.
Oh, so you're saying you think that, like,
I'm just saying that if the number of people who probably, whether they're doing the crazy shit that I'm talking about or just having private conversations with people around their phones, it's just crazy to think like how much. I mean, they're in your emails or in your Word document. Just the idea that there's nothing that you could put in a computer or say around a phone that isn't being recorded by, what's that technology that our CIA uses to listen to everything? It's been around since like 9/11 days.
You know, as a concerned citizen, I don't know what it's
called.
Well, whatever it is, but that technology's been around for a long time, and the ability to like listen to all your phone calls and like listen for keywords and then go back and it'll like flag that, and then they can go listen to the whole conversation. I mean, that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, it's fun. I saw a video on Instagram. They had this guy took it with his phone, and he's in an attic, and it says on it, it's like these people. He's an AC guy, I guess. He's like, I think they forgot I'm up here, and you can hear like a dude and a chick like yelling, having an argument, and she's like, "Yeah, that's why you sure came last night when I put that dildo up your ass or something like." But so imagine it's like having a guy in your attic all the
time. Dude,
God.
It's weird to think the way that we just get comfortable with shit and don't really, you know what I mean? Like,
dude, just the things like I've had, not even to pick up things I say, just of the conversations I've had with friends that I've Googled things.
Yeah.
That if they just look that up, I think they could like have me forcibly like committed.
Yeah, I kind of like welcome it. I feel like any action they take against me would just like increase my clout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh yeah, the government heard me say something and they arrested me.
Right.
I'm cool.
Yeah, you street cred. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than likely what they would do is they would find they would just, instead of like arrest you for saying something, they would just find some deep, dark secret of yours and then put it out, blast it out in public. It'd be more for blackmail purposes.
Stepmom porn.
Or like,
no, I think everyone does that.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm good. Got nothing on me.
Yeah.
Except jizz. So let's talk about Artmosphere. I don't know how much we can, when I think about, hey, let's talk about Artmosphere, honestly, the first things that come to my mind is like, let's bitch about Artmosphere, like all the things that we're annoyed about. But I kind of feel like we probably can't have as candid of a conversation about it. But Artmosphere is an interesting place to be our home base.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be real nice when they remodel it one day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a cool place. It has a lot of potential to be a real cool place.
I like Artmosphere. Like, I like the building. I like that I get to run my show there.
It doesn't.
There's some things that I would like to change.
Yeah. It needs some more. Hey, this is a place here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It just looks like a house. Like
yeah, it's like, it's not a place people, I could see people stumbling into. Like, hey, let's, you know what I mean? Like a lot of other
when they do,
restaurants
they think it's
and bars.
Food, yeah.
Like downtown, you can be walking around and be like, hey, let's go in this place. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's a place you're allowed to walk into.
Yeah, it just feels like a place.
The entrance is all dark. Even when people come, they're like, how do we get in this place?
Yeah.
And the front door is right there, but it's all dark by the front door.
Yeah, there's two lights that don't work, and then there's a big old marquee that has no electricity.
Yeah, every single open sign is broken. Not lit up. Yeah.
And like there are lights,
the most important light you need to have working is the ones that they don't have working.
And all those lights, they could have put at least one of them around the front.
Right, they put them all in the bushes and shit.
You know, that's something I could probably do myself if I remember to. But yeah, they let me They let me do. That's one of the things I like about it is they let me do pretty much whatever.
Yeah.
Like the booths being moved. I moved those like 3 weeks ago, and they were like, "That looks good." Like,
yeah, that
we'll
is a
keep
good
it.
thing about it is that kind of the thing about them kind of not being involved is you kind of have free reign
Yeah.
to do things how you want.
Yeah. And, you know, it's a consistent night, so they're happy to let me do whatever I think will keep that.
Yeah,
you
they
know.
don't. If we have loud audience members, they don't care if we berate them.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
But some places don't like that because
Right.
it's their.
Yeah, that's my clientele.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, that's my target.
Great. It's a good location. It is. There's a place you can go outside if you don't want to be, you know, listening to the show the whole time.
Nice deck. They got a big deck.
It is nice big wood.
I'm gonna get a zoom in on your face when you said that.
And then there's you know, there is space to be able to do food there. Food vendors want to come. I know that has been a little bit inconsistent.
Well, we
lately.
just stopped doing food. That's kind
Okay.
of that's what it is. Because like I don't want people to show up 1 week expecting there to be food and there's not.
Right.
So they didn't eat before the show, and like maybe they're like less likely to laugh because they're hungry or cranky or
Yeah.
thinking about leaving and go get food the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just ixnayed the Oud Fay, and we're just a comedy show now.
Yep.
A normal bar comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
Eat before you come.
Yeah.
Originally, it was Comedy en Vie, and that's why I changed the name, because the Comedy en Vie was supposed to like hint at like a presence of food.
Right.
You know, like it's you got the craving for comedy and you got a craving for food. Let's do it.
Yeah,
You know,
Isaiah called it etouffee.
Yeah, I don't even think it was a joke. I think I thought that's what it was called for a good long while. But yeah, and so now it's just Oof Comedy Hour,
Mhm.
and it's not an hour. It's still inaccurate, but
you
cares?
got to keep a little bit of questionable.
Yeah, we got to keep the audience on their toes.
I guess what I can say to people if they ask is that if you took all of the actual comedy that happened and put it together, it's about an hour. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
It would be funny if someone would be like, I've only slated an hour. I was like if they'd like leave you a review like that or so on Facebook, like I had.
yeah. Well, that's fine as long as they're there for the headliner. You know,
Mhm.
so fuck everybody on the second half.
Yeah. Now, when this episode comes out, it will be the Monday before I'm actually going to be headlining. It's a feature. It's really more of a. It's not like, is it headlining?
Okay, so that's the thing.
Okay.
Tyler doesn't say headliner. We haven't
Mhm.
really talked about it. He says feature.
Yeah.
I say headliner because that's just like the word for it. Like that's what it does have an implication of like grandeur, but when you're the name
Mhm.
on the show, you're the headliner. If
Yeah.
there was other names, then y'all would all be features.
Right.
If y'all were all doing the same amount of time, but there's only one person being booked on this show. They're the headliner. Like that's just the word for it.
Gotcha.
It's not to denote any kind of like specialness, you know,
Right.
like you're getting to headline an open mic. That's not really that special, you know. Like,
Thank you, John.
yeah, but it's just it's an open
No,
mic.
you're right. You're right.
But it is like a it does teach you a lot about yourself as a comedian when you get to headline a room. It's interesting though when I don't know. There's just a lot of eager comics that go into it thinking that because they're the headliner, they will automatically get the audience's respect
Mhm.
because they're the one who's the featured comedian of the
Right.
night. You know,
Right.
and that is not the case at Artmosphere. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there is some truth to that. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I give this guy the benefit of the doubt because he got booked on this show.
Right.
So he's got to have something. Like I'm willing to like let him have it. But Artmosphere doesn't laugh unless you're funny. Like they don't give you anything. Like you gotta either be funny or you gotta be like awkward in a funny way or
Mhm.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or self-deprecating between you sucking, like and I don't know if it's because like how we've if we've trained our crowd to be a certain way or if we put out a vibe that makes the crowd like that because it's like it's not really that consistent of a clientele to say that like Artmosphere attracts the type of person who is like only there for highbrow jokes
Right.
or whatever. Like
Right.
it's not really what's happening, but they definitely don't give you very many freebies. Not even
Yeah.
me,
Mhm.
Yeah,
And-
sometimes it's hot too.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so and when it is hot, that's so nice. Like when there's a hot crowd, I can do my old jokes and I still have a good time. But me and Tyler both suffer from the fact that most of the people are comics who've heard our jokes.
Yeah.
And then even the audience members can, still be a little bit tired of the jokes that they've heard millions of times.
Right.
But yeah, whatever. It's part of open micing.
Introducing new material there, which is kind of what the mic is. I don't know. I don't want to. Open mics obviously are just as much about just like getting in reps and practicing as it is about introducing new material that's questionable, because where else are you going to do it until you get to the point where you're using your booked shows to introduce new material? I know that's a level you can get to, but it's just as much one or the other at our level, I would think. And I find that the new material seems to work better there. Like obviously because we're having so many, just what you're describing, it's a perfect scenario for them to be more excited about your new shit.
Yeah, for sure. I love breaking out new material there. I feel like anytime I do new jokes, at least like a few of them hit hard.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Artmosphere is just like, because of, how long I've been doing it now and how long I've been doing comedy now, it's just where I go to play. Like, that's where I go to like have fun with my comedy and to try weird shit out. Like, I can't do my shuffle thing at a book show. Like, I can't risk that the card I pull is going to be like really bad or not make sense in the context. Like, but at the mic, who cares? Like,
yeah, that was so funny when you did the misogynist joke out of context. That was so funny. Anyway. That was so great.
He pulls a card. Well, so that last joke was misogynistic.
I put that on TikTok. Like, it was one of my most recent TikTok is what I was talking about earlier. It's like, the jokes don't really hit, but the shit I say because the jokes don't hit or because they didn't make any sense, that's funnier. That's the entertainment value of those.
I love that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing better than like getting, I'm not nothing better. I'm like obsessed with TikTok right now, you guys, but it's just like instant gratification the way a comedian, like exactly the way a comedian wants it. Like, you get to see people have seen your video this many times, and it happens like, if your shit's good, it happens in minutes. Like, I will check my phone and it'll be 25 views, and then I'll check my phone 10 minutes later and it's 200 views, and it's like, whoa,
wow, I've got to get on TikTok.
Yeah.
John's getting 200 views.
All you gotta do, hashtag stand up, hashtag comedy, hashtag stand up comedy, baby, every time. And I also get to hashtag one-liners and jokes. You guys can't hashtag jokes. Y'all don't have any of those. Bada bing.
Yeah, I might do it anyway, though. There's lots of times on Pornhub whenever it's like, they'll put hashtag cream pie, and there's no cream pie.
Oh, God. Yeah. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
It's very frustrating. It's like, oh, he did it on her face.
Yeah. Hashtag
bullshit.
Yeah, there's no chance
hairy,
she may
and
get
it's
pregnant.
like, she's not hairy. Hashtag big titty, and she's got small titties. Like, who is in charge of this shit? Like, do they not want to reach a target audience? They just want to reach whoever. I guess it is whoever, because sometimes you end up like, you think you want the big titty, and then you see the small titty girl, and you're like, I guess that's what I want now, because we're gonna edit this out.
Oh shit. Well,
Tetons.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to, it's going to be a fun thing to do. We did this show at the distillery, and it was the same amount of time, but I was kind of really hoping that between the new stuff, the stuff I brought back last night and the stuff I'm going to introduce at 51st Jokes, provided that it works, I'm going to be using that at the feature set, or the headline set, because I, in 2024, really want to start writing legitimate jokes and stop leaning on the first thing that I got some real traction with. The first thing I got traction with, I feel, was making fun of my sort of somewhat effeminate, is he gay kind of thing, masculinity based.
You want that, and you don't want that to be your whole shtick.
No, I never got into this hoping that would be a thing that I would do. It's just the first thing that worked, and then I realized how easy it was to write similar jokes. And then I just ended up writing too many jokes that depend at some point on being like, I'm kind of gay, aren't I?
Yeah.
And I'm
I
really
think it's
getting
an
tired
important
of it.
thing that you have to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's fucking weird.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, right. You don't want that to be your whole set.
You
have
should try
a
to
lot of
uglify
other
yourself.
funny things. Yeah, you've got a lot of other funny things to say.
Yeah.
Make yourself a little uglier. Not a little. You need to uglify yourself a good bit. Come in wearing like saggy shorts or saggy pants around your below your dick with the boxers up. But
right.
Yeah, get sloppier.
That t-shirt.
Yeah, gain a few pounds maybe.
Come in looking like a washed up Paul Rudd. And see how that works for you. You know, maybe like do some cool different facial hair, like just like shave this part and then only have this. And that could be a thing.
All right. So we'll just do the Anchorman Paul Rudd.
Yeah. I think the first 10 years of my comedy was just different. Like every year I changed my look a little bit to see if that helped.
And did it?
Eventually, I think that what I landed on is I don't want what I'm wearing to distract from what I'm saying. And
what the fuck are you talking about? You wear the stupidest clothes. You wear the most distracting clothes ever.
I don't know.
He's like, I don't want to be distracting. He dresses like my Paul. He wears a fucking,
but the way I see it, it's like a plain jumpsuit. Like it's not like saying anything. It's not. There's no words. It's just like I'm trying to like dress as like utilitarian as possible, so that what I'm up there doing is the main thing. But I guess you might be right. Maybe the jumpsuit's a little distracting. I did order a bright red one.
Yeah, I feel like a plain jumpsuit is really not a plain jumpsuit because it's still a jumpsuit.
Yeah, it's true. You're wearing.
Dave Chappelle wears a jumpsuit in one of his specials.
Yeah, but
you, sir, are no Dave Chappelle. No, I'm just playing. I'm cutting that out.
I, sir, am the next Dave Chappelle.
There also is a different thing too, that like some people can pull off certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there is a thing too, like Dave Chappelle being black, there's certain things he can wear that'll look cool on him, that'll look dumb on you.
Wait till you see this new jumpsuit I got, all right? It's gonna look so cool.
I actually think as far as...
That's how I feel about white suits.
The ones I've been wearing are from
they don't look good on, but that's a color thing.
Yeah.
But
where do you see this white jumpsuit with this cool ghost hood that I got with two eyes in it? It's just it's a Klan outfit. It's
surprise. Well, I actually do think this is just unironically. I actually do think you can pull off the jumpsuit perfectly well. I just don't think it's, if that's what you were thinking, that this is a plain sort of nondescript thing that will not distract away from what I'm saying.
I mean, your pants and shirt are still one piece of clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like, I also don't like having to figure out what to wear. And so I'm trying to like have a comedy uniform that I just wear. I just like know what I'm going to wear when I get booked. And not have to worry about whether or not, the outfit I picked is going to haunt me for, that show bombing.
Right. It's very Steve Jobs of you.
I hated
I love cartoon. I love the whole idea of like being a cartoon and just wearing the same shit all the time.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Like to me, I like uniforms. I just don't like having to think too much because I think too much about what I'm gonna. And you do too. I can tell. You think about what you're gonna wear.
Not at all.
You got quite an ensemble.
No, I do. That's true.
Yeah.
And I can see exactly what you mean. And I was about to try to make the argument that, well, I kind of started to, but now I'm already second guessing it because I kind of feel like once you start telling your jokes, anything about me noticing, oh, he's wearing a black jumpsuit this time. All that completely went away as soon as you started telling your jokes. Just personally, me, I can't say if that's you're probably right. Yeah, I'm just saying
I don't think you wear anything that's that distracting.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but you wear goofy things though.
Sometimes I do. I guess you're right. I'm just trying.
I mean, if you really want to blend in with society, a pants and a shirt is the way to
go. No. I don't see how that makes any sense. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm going to just keep trying jumpsuits until I find one I like.
I was thinking about, our most recent episode with Raven actually ended up stirring up a lot of feedback, and a lot of people have been happy, oh, this is interesting. The way y'all opened up and the conversations y'all had and everything. And a big part of that was about thinking about the way you come across on stage. And I was watching a comic recently on a pretty high profile show here in Louisiana, and I noticed his outfit, and I noticed all the care and the detail that he was putting into his appearance, and I kind of felt like I was looking in a mirror, only in the sense of like, you can tell when somebody gets up on stage and they care about their appearance, or they're trying to project a certain kind of image, regardless of what that is. And it is distracting.
Yeah. So I was thinking a little bit about this since I last spoke. And I think fuck, now I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, no, I think that a big part of what I'm trying to achieve when I think about what I'm going to wear is I want it to look like I didn't think too much about what I was going to wear.
Yes.
Yeah. I used to do that like in high school. Like I would try to, I would put a lot of effort into looking like I didn't care, like with my clothes. Like I would have, if I had torn sleeves, they were torn like just so, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the thing too, the overalls, like I would be so terrified already. It's a fear of mine to have to take a shit and not be at my house. And it's gotten worse since I got the bidet. But now, like, if you're in overalls and you have to shit, you're fucking naked pretty much.
Well, that's what's cool about overalls.
And then I'm worried about it getting on the touching the floor and everything else.
The main thing about overalls is that it's really hard to see if you're wearing a diaper or not. So that's never an issue. I'm just up on stage shitting the whole time.
All right, well, now it feels stupid for you even bringing it up. Yeah, of course. He's walking around, and a guy who's scared to shit not at his house would definitely not have a problem with wearing his shit all day.
Yeah. No, I get off stage, I give Don a diaper dap, and I go right back to my
Don diaper. Anyway, I
diaper
do
Don.
think generally,
this is cool.
Dapper Dan, diaper Don.
Yeah.
I'm a diaper Don man.
Yeah, it'd be cool, like mafia nickname. You know, if he's like a that's they call him the diaper Don.
Diaper Don.
He can outweight anyone.
You come to me on this, the day of my daughter's potty training.
Anyway, all that to say, I do think it's a little distracting, a little off-putting when you're watching a person on stage who's supposed to be funny, but you can tell that that they put effort into what they were going to look like on stage. It kind of doesn't. It's a conflict that has to be resolved somehow.
Yeah, and okay, yeah, that's a great point, because like I think that if you look like anything, and you get on stage and you don't acknowledge it, then that's working against you, like already. And I think like and like if you look unassuming enough, like Drew, you could say you look like something, but you just look like a dude. Like you just look like a dude who's doing an open mic. You don't look like,
I don't know, I get racist a lot.
Yeah, but
people give me the racist.
That's when people are like going, like if they had to roast you, that's what they're thinking of. But like it's not like something when I see Drew, I'm like, oh my God, this is what this guy looks like. But like, for instance, just to pick an obvious example, like Gabriel Iglesias. The first thing he does in his like first special is talk about how fat he is, and he calls it fluffy, and he's like, "That's his soul." So he gets that out of the way, so that when he has other jokes, like he's already talked about that, you're not thinking about that anymore. Like, okay, we get it, you're fat.
Yeah,
right.
So like, if I don't know who's a good like Don, it's like if Don got up and didn't talk about the fact that he was in a wheelchair,
Right?
Like, come on, guy, you're not gonna get up there and act like you're not in a wheelchair,
Right?
Like. Say something about it, because if you don't, I'm gonna that's the idea. At least it's like a lot of self-deprecating comedy for me comes from being bullied as a kid and learning to make the joke first and better.
Right.
That way they can't. They're powerless. If they were gonna pick on me, that's gone. Like they got to find.
Yeah, and it shows awareness too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And self-aware. Yeah. It immediately displays that you're like a guy that people can relate to. It's like, not only do you think I look funny, but I also think I look funny, you know, like, or look weird.
I have a sense of humor about it.
I have a sense of humor about it. Yeah.
I heard Tony Hinchcliffe told a story one time saying back in the day he was getting frustrated because there was this certain guy who wouldn't book him. And then someone told him that the guy had told me. He said, "Yeah, he thinks you're funny. But he said he won't book you because you will not acknowledge the fact that you're gay on stage." And Tony Hinchcliffe, he's like, "Well, I'm not gay," but he still had a good point because I talk. So then
you gotta acknowledge.
So that. He said. So then I started. He said I started doing that when I'd come out. I'd acknowledge first of all, and then tell jokes about growing up, kind of like you do a little bit, but his own experiences. Get that out the way, then go into his other material. And he was like, it worked. It made his act better. To acknowledge that. Yeah,
Tony Hinchcliffe. When I found out he wasn't gay, that was a shock to me.
I was just telling.
I am not gay, and I was attracted to that man for a little
while.
When
I first started watching it, he had the mannerisms, and everyone would always call him gay and everything, and make jokes about him being gay. And I was just like, oh, this is a gay guy with a good sense of humor. Whenever I would like recommend him to you'd like this guy, just without even checking, I never even thought about, this guy real funny, he's this gay guy and all this. And then one day I was like, wait, is he gay? And I went look it up, and he was, at the time, he was like married to a supermodel.
Yeah.
Which I will say, if you are gay and don't want people to know, marry a supermodel.
Yeah, it's
a good way to cover. But anyway, I just thought it was funny that without even thinking about it, I just spread this misinformation about this man. I told so many people this guy was gay.
Yeah, I might have done that too. Tony Hinchcliffe looks like Waldo from what is it, Little Rascals? Growing up, like I feel like that's the vibe he gives me.
I don't know.
Waldo was like the preppy kid in Little Rascals. That was like.
He kind of does look like the Waldo that's lost all the time too, a little bit.
What's Alfalfa's Darla? Dear Darla. The little nerdy kid that hooked up with Darla grew up to be Tony Hinchcliffe, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. But he does look like the Waldo Where's Waldo kind of.
Sure, that's what I meant.
Coke bottle glass.
That's what I mean.
He's a thin guy with a long head. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, he is. Good to be here, everybody. Good to be here. The West Hollywood Bear.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Damn. Tell us about your dog.
My dog. Her name is Ruby Doo. She looks like Scrappy Doo, so I call her Ruby Doo. And she's a sweet little dachshund, probably pit bull terrier mix. I would say she's built like those two things mixed together.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she's a sweetie. She loves people. She loves animals, and she most importantly loves me.
And you had a couple cats already,
yes,
right?
That's right.
And did you have a plan to get a dog, or was it more of like a thing that happened?
Man, let's just be honest. I was lonely.
And cats don't really give you the
Church. My cat Church, he likes to cuddle, but he wants to like lay on my chest, and then I can't move around.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, you know what that is, I think? That's like, you know how they have the old story about the woman who would sleep in the bed with the python, and she's like, oh, the python is cuddling, but
I thought you were going to go Princess and the Pea.
But no, the python was just sizing her up to eat her later.
Yeah.
I really think that's what cats do, too.
Oh, my God.
Like, people are like, oh, the cat loves me, and the cat's just really like I'll get close, and eventually I'll strike. Because I really do believe everyone's cat wants to murder them.
There's probably a lot of truth to that.
If you die in your house,
my cats definitely want to murder me now.
Right. If you die in your house, a dog will eat. They'll like eat all their food. Like a dog will put off days like before they start to eat their owners, to where it's like, well, if I don't eat them, I'm going to starve. Right. A cat will start eating you immediately.
That's awesome. Dude.
You can still
gnarly.
You can be like trying to reach to call 911, and the cat will already start eating. Like, finally.
Tinder vittles, huh? Yeah, that's okay. So it was deliberate. You were like, it would be cool if I had a dog. It's not like you just saw that.
Yeah, and I wanted to get like a rescue. I wasn't trying to buy a dog.
Yeah.
There's already an abundance of animals out there.
Yeah, and they're usually better. Yeah. Like the couple times I had like a purebred dog, I didn't buy it. Someone just gave me one. like 2 times, they died like immediately. For one of them the dog was like, it was alive, but it was like tensed up, like when a dead animal gets like rigor mortis.
Oh yeah.
But it was like awake and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this has to be terrible. So like I rushed this dog to the vet, and they were like, oh, it's got high blood sugar. Your dog is hypoglycemic, and they gave me a paste to feed to the dog, and the dog was dead by morning. Like,
oh my gosh.
Jeez.
Yeah, when you have a dog that you kind of don't really know what all's in it,
Yeah.
You don't know. They're much better dogs. Yeah.
They're more resilient. Yeah.
Well, shit. I hope Ruby's not hypoglycemic.
Yeah.
I don't think she would be. She's mixed with some different stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like she's mixed with some different things. They're a lot better. It's like they're tougher. They're sturdy. I guess like full bred dogs are like inbred or something.
Yeah.
But they get diseases that kill you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you end up having a dog that you got to give medicine to every day. They've always got some shit with them.
Yeah, we don't want any of that. That's for sure. If Ruby has any problems like that, I'm gonna put her down.
Yeah,
immediately. Even the slightest problem.
Because I'll be honest, I mean, 2 hours of like helping Dawn through doorways and stuff like that. That's exhausting already. I couldn't imagine if that was a 24-hour thing, you know?
Oh, Ruby just learned stairs. She would not come, because I live, like, my apartment is both upstairs and downstairs. My kitchen and, like, foyer are downstairs, and then the rest of my apartment is upstairs. Mm-hmm. And it's a steep little, steep stairs. And so Ruby was, like, scared of the stairs. She's got little short legs. She's got, like, a dachshund legs, you know?
Right.
But she learned them. She sure did. She's going up and down stairs. Why did I talk about this? You were saying something about something, and then I was like, Ruby loves stairs.
Oh, because we were talking about if her health declined, you would put her down immediately.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's.
I just figured.
Let's get back to that.
I figured we were talking about people who love stairs with Dawn, and so I thought that. Oh
yeah, stairs. Yeah. Yeah, him talking about Don's cripple ass reminded me of her cripple ass not wanting to get up some stairs. You're gonna want to bleep the words cripple.
for the socials.
Don, we love you. I don't think I need to say that. Yeah. You're one of the best people in this scene, hands down.
Yeah,
and that is the last nice thing I'm gonna say about you on this podcast.
Fucking dork.
Shit.
So we got to meet the dog tonight. Super sweet. Just immediately walked in. It was just, it just because I mean, obviously I was like kind of thinking that my family was going to be looking after the dog while we were doing the podcast. And so my first thought was like, I made a lot of assumptions that this is like a sweet, lovable, cuddly dog that would be a good idea to like just leave with my family while I'm not paying attention. But as soon as she walked in, I was like, nah,
when everybody shows up, it's like National Lampoon's Vacation, like the dog's like got his pants like the whole time. Yeah, and she's like, here, take the dog.
She's a lot different than my last dog. It was my ex's dog, but we had him together. And he was an Australian Shepherd, and he was just anxious. Like if he was outside of this room at any period, like for any period of time, he would be barking and like crying. Yeah, it doesn't matter if he's being played with. Ruby, she doesn't care as long as there's a human being, as long as there's a human being around, she's happy.
Yeah, she's a whore.
Yeah, she is.
I haven't heard a peep out of her the whole time she's been here. I mean,
I heard a playful bark earlier, but
okay,
that was it.
Well, that's cool.
Her put down.
Dogs are fun, man. I know Maggie's dog makes appearances at Artmosphere. Do you think that's something that might ever happen?
Oh yeah, I actually messaged Maggie before the show to let her know that Ruby was going to be there if she wanted to bring Daphne, because Ruby loves other dogs, and she said I'll let Ruby get acclimated to the mic. And then I'll bring Daphne another time.
That's very thoughtful.
Yeah. She hasn't really been bringing Daphne lately, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope to see you around again.
God, Maggie's such a good fucking comic, dude. Holy shit. She's so good. She did her, she was real funny when she Lisa Curry, I think she hosted for Lisa Curry. She was so good.
Yeah, Maggie's great. She's one of the best to do it. She gets it. Like, she gets what this is all about, and her and I have a lot of the same perspectives on things, and I like that. I like having I like knowing that I don't no matter what, 'cause sometimes me and Tyler have different opinions about comedy. Me and Ken have different opinions about comedy. Those are two of my best friends in the world. And it's nice knowing that I got Maggie's and Charles's around too, that I know we almost align on everything.
Yeah.
I like clashing with people on opinions and stuff because it makes me quite reaffirm why I believe what I believe or why I feel what I feel.
Yeah.
And it's if I can't come up with an argument for why I feel this way, then I probably shouldn't feel that way.
Right.
You know? And so the only way to have that thought process is to have people in your scene who are willing to disagree with you and to make yourself a person that can be disagreed with.
Yeah.
And yeah, so why am I talking about that?
Well, actually, that's a really good segue into something that I didn't know until today we were going to talk about. But it's kind of it could probably be we have time. We can kind of go into great detail about this because we're not going to cover the question. We already covered the question with you on the first episode, so we'll skip that. So we pretty much have a big chunk of time left, I would think. And there was a topic that kind of came up randomly. And I guess it's punching down. Do you want to kind of introduce it and kind of let me know what you had in mind?
Yeah, I said, me personally, I've never liked the whole punching down thing. The phrase people say, you're not supposed to punch down. And my first problem already with it is just the whole idea of punching, because I don't I've never felt like comedy is a punching thing. It's even when you are making a joke at someone's expense, to me, it's always been, to me, that was always that's always the way my friends and I, when we hung out, we always made fun of each other.
Right.
Well, not even that, my family, Yeah,
that's how you express
my mom
affection.
made fun of me growing up,
all
the time. So to me, it's not a punching thing. It's laughter is a positive thing. It's a happy thing. And then once you start to get into the whole punching down, I never liked the whole thing about well, I've got to put someone underneath me now. And I don't like how it's usually it usually goes by race or your gender or sexual identity or
right, some immutable
or your sexual preference I was these are all the things that we've been working towards getting our society to not judge people by. And now we're doing it with comedy. So that was kind of always to me, it was always my problem with it because I didn't
So what do you
think of it as a
the
attack on
terminology or the concept? Because there's also,
I mean,
as much as there's
both.
punching down, there's also punching up and punching sideways. Do you not like the idea of punching in general? Do you not like? I guess it's just hard to have a conversation about it if we don't agree that this is the term for this thing.
Well, there's that, and just the whole thing in general. I mean, I don't like excluding someone because they have this thing that are especially if we're talking about if someone belongs in a certain group that has trouble in society because if people have prejudices toward them and other things like this, we're just excluding them in another way.
You're saying that you think that saying you shouldn't punch down on a group means you shouldn't joke about that group. And that's not what it is.
No, I understand that.
For me...
But there's also a thing about, it's you shouldn't joke about them. Not so much oh, you can't joke about them or the subject at all. Well, it's more oh, you can't... They can't be... the joke can't be at their expense. And I think if someone has a bad intent...
I disagree with that is what the argument is. I think that is an argument that is being imposed on people who are describing punching up or down that is not being made by those people, which is no one's saying you can't punch up or down. No one's saying you can't punch down with your comedy. They're just letting you know that this is punching down. You can do it if you want to do it, but that's punching down. And when you do it, that's why you're getting backlash, is because you were punching down. And so if you don't mind the backlash, punch down all you want. If what you want is to not get backlash, then don't punch down. That's just all it is. I don't think that there should be any parameters to what you are allowed to say or what you should and shouldn't say. But I think that, you know, and this has been said, you know, a million times by different comics and thinkers alike, just like be prepared for the consequences, you know, and like,
yeah, no one has to. I mean,
no one has to like
I
it.
agree. No one has to like it. But the thing about, and I'm not pushing this opinion on you, but a lot of people have the opinion that it's like, oh, well, this person, it's not enough for me to just be like, I don't like this. It's like, it becomes like a moral argument. Like, well, I don't agree with this. I'm morally superior because this is not okay. You know, that's how a lot of people do feel, that if you're making fun of, and a lot of it is the terminology too, I guess, because I just don't see when we're talking about jokes, none of these things puts anyone below me.
Okay, well,
you know what I mean? Like, I can understand. I can understand.
It's just jokes, but sometimes jokes can be pointed, and when they're punching up, like, I'm not going to say, "Oh, I didn't really mean to diss that congressman. Like, I was just making jokes." No, I really wanted to get a dig in at this guy, like, and I wanted to do it with a joke. Because that's the most effective way to do it sometimes, is to like,
yeah, I guess I don't think that way because I've never had that intention with a joke ever.
Sure. And like, it's also all about what you want out of comedy. And like, for me, I want as many people to like my jokes as I can get. And I find that a fun way to do that is to figure out what is punching down and use that as like, okay, challenge accepted, can't punch down. Let's see what I can do then. And let me see if I can still do jokes about these subjects and make them punch sideways or make them punch, you know, some people punch right, you know, like they only make jokes about like right-wing people, you know, or like.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing that I have a problem with though, is because I can understand how like in the outside world, it's like if you're a woman, you know, things are better now, but I don't know. I'm sure there's still some things that are hard in a woman. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a woman. I have no way of knowing. But like,
let the record show that Drew is not a woman. Back to you, Drew.
So, you know, there's a long time that made it hard to get a job if you wanted a job and all these other things. None of that applies to telling jokes. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, like, a woman, I can't punch down because no one is beneath me when we're talking about jokes.
Okay, well,
not to mention and like I said, I have trouble with the whole thing of punching because that's not the intent anyway. But if I make a joke, I don't know how to. I know how other people would qualify it, but I don't.
Sure, but that's not what punching down is about. It's not about whether or not you feel people are beneath you. It's about people's objective status in the world. So like, if we know for a fact that women have a harder time than men,
we're telling jokes though.
Sure, and there's ways to, and you can punch down.
That's the beauty about comedy, is that all these prejudices and inequalities and unfairness in society, I don't want them to exist here. You know what I'm saying? I don't
okay, but
want to
your
carry
audience
that
members,
here.
The people you're performing for, they exist for those people. And so when you say a joke that punches down on something that they like feel like targeted about, it's harder for them to laugh at your joke. Like, it's harder for them to enjoy what you're saying on stage when you're picking on them, and it's not funnier than it is offensive.
Yeah, but some people some people, that's the decision they make, because someone who fits in the exact same demographic as them will say, hey, this is awesome. Glad I'm included.
Sure, yeah.
So you can choose to look at it however way you want.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that if that's okay with you, if you're okay with that person being in the audience and being like, well, that joke wasn't for me and it kind of fucking upset me a little bit, then by all means keep doing jokes that way. But when you get feedback, you know, accordingly, when you get articles written about you, don't whine about being canceled. Like, you chose to say that, and this is what people think about that. Like,
yeah, I mean, if it would be personally me, I mean, no one gives a fuck about anything I say because no one really knows who I am. But if I get to a point where it does matter, if you do get to a certain point, it doesn't matter who you are. You're going to say something that someone's going to get outraged about.
I don't know if that's necessarily true, but like,
oh yeah, it just,
I mean, like, it's likely, but
it might not be the people you care about, but I can tell you right now, every single thing You go look on social media.
You're right, because that's already happened to me.
Someone is upset about.
It's already happened to me a couple times.
Someone is upset about everything, and I do think that if it happens, that I do think you should at least take a second and like, all right, well, let me hear what I said, because there is a way. I do believe that you can, if you can say something that it's like, well, that's not. Like if I hear how you can misunderstand what I said and take it to mean something else, and that's not what I meant. I need to do a better job to make that joke work better because I'm being misunderstood. And if I can't do that, well, I'm not going to tell it.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to just don't make fun of me, then that doesn't matter, because it's been, you know, I mean,
but you're acting like people are setting a rule that you can't make fun of these people, and that's not what's happening. What's happening is when you make fun of these people might have something to say about it.
Sometimes it is a rule. Sometimes you go to comedy to do places, and you do have to sign.
Yeah,
I've never had that happen.
We both.
But I don't think you're lying to me. I'm just.
Yeah, there are places where you have to sign. Where I'm like, well, how do I? Now you're asking me to sign my signature, acknowledging that people are beneath me.
Yeah, well, that's. I just don't know why you keep saying it like that.
Not falling into that trap.
Let's see if we can.
Because later on, when the culture is going to change, it's going to come back to, hey, this is whenever Drew signed.
That just sounds like some liberal identity politics bullshit, though. That doesn't sound like a reasonable person doing something. That sounds like
that's what that is. It's identity.
It's like
politics.
They're scared about offending people more than they're actually thinking about what's being said, and that's silly. To me, that's silly.
So let's add some clarity. So first, just to sum up, I think your position, the core of it is that what you're saying is that the idea of referring to something is punching down. The punching part implies aggression, and your whole thing is there's no real aggression when I'm making a joke, and maybe somebody's a target of a joke just in this one instance. That does not imply in any way that I actually have any aggression. So punching implies something that's not there.
I'm sure. Not I'm sure. I mean, I know. I don't know. I can't think of any examples. But yeah, there are people who are telling jokes with bad intentions.
Sure.
No doubt about it. But the punching thing just insinuates it.
It's just the term we use, though. It's like,
right.
It's not like you don't. It's like it's frustrating because it's like when Elon's like, I'm not cis, you're cis. It's like, okay, but cisgender is a word that means something, and you are that. Like, the definition describes you. It means that you identify as the person you were born as. Like, words have meaning. So like punching up, punching down, punching sideways, that's the word to describe a certain thing. And if you have an alternative word for that everybody's down to use, let's use it. But there's not. So it's like you can't like disagree with the definition of a thing that it like is being described. Like, you're saying that we shouldn't be able to describe the thing that's happening.
What I'm saying is it automatically infers bad intentions.
I don't think that's true, though. I think that you feel that way because you think that
I don't know. It's not fun being punched. I mean, you know,
but nobody thinks you're actually punching anybody. But you can punch sideways and you can punch up, and those are positive things. It's just when it's punching down that you feel like it's in a negative connotation, because inherently that's what punching down is.
Well, I do think it's negative all the way around.
But like, you don't even punch down in your comedy.
I don't really punch at all. Really.
You don't think you do, but that's the thing. It's it describes what you're doing on stage, regardless of whether or not you like to use the terms or not. You are up there either punching up, down, or sideways, no matter what you do. And so,
like, I don't think I make, what I'm saying, I don't make, I mean, I know I do sometimes, but I don't make very many jokes at other people's expense, really.
But sometimes your jokes, okay, so like sometimes you do jokes that imply that you know what the right thing to believe is. Like, you will make jokes about like being gay or whatever, and like it's not necessarily clear on whether or not, or it's not by your jokes necessarily clear that you're pro or against gay marriage until like a certain point. But the absurdity of the joke demonstrates that you know that like homosexuality is fine, like it's whatever. Like, it's
because because the comedy and my real feelings happen to go in the same direction.
Yeah,
that's not always going to happen. Sometimes I'm going to say, I mean, we all do it. Sometimes I'm going to say the bad thing because it's funnier.
Yeah, but
once you build up enough, you know, you have to do it.
But that is also, to me, that demonstrates
set where
to
people
me,
know it's not.
Yeah.
That people know that
I
it's
just think
not
that you
really
still
what you're saying.
demonstrate that you know that that's the bad thing by saying it, because you know it's a shocking thing to say. It's like you're showing, like when I don't know, like I do like the autism fucking joke, and I don't actually believe the vaccines cause autism, but it's perfect.
It's funny
for that
to
joke.
say, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt anybody for me to say that joke, in my opinion. And so like,
yeah, unless they choose to be.
well, and like I guess the argument could be made, oh, you're perpetuating a myth that is going to cause people not to get vaccines. And I don't think anybody, if you make any decisions after that joke about anything, then you were already hopeless. Like,
Yeah.
Like, but I also, and then when you get that argument on a grander scale, then, and with a comedian that has an audience of millions, the argument can easily be made that your jokes are having a direct effect on the world and the people that they're about. And like, you're perpetuating this idea that trans people don't deserve respect. We're talking about Dave Chappelle, if you might figure that out.
Yeah, but of course, Dave Chappelle, that's not even fair, because Dave Chappelle's whole thing has been complete opposite of that.
Oh yeah, but there's like the whole idea that he's like lumping them all as like the trans community's coming after me, which is like not really what's happening. Like you can't just say you can't lump all trans people into a monolith.
He's saying white people are coming after me. If you actually listen to what he's saying,
that's also annoying. Like it's like identity politics bullshit, and it erases all the non-white people who are also upset.
The first joke, the first joke was really that like, that black people have taken hundreds and hundreds of years. They're like, we're human beings. We're human beings. We deserve the same human rights as everyone else. I'm not doing the joke a good service, obviously, because I'm explaining the joke and I don't remember how it goes. And he's like, and then the trans thing comes along, and I mean, there's a lot of people that are not digging it, and it came pretty quick when you compare it to that. And he's saying if the reason is because it's a majority white, more privileged thing.
Yeah, I just don't agree with that.
Well, that's statistically it is.
What, being trans?
The way more trans people are white.
No, I think that way more people who are able to transition might be white, but I don't think that Dave Chappelle has any way of knowing.
So, and that might be it, but what I'm saying
there's a lot of trans black people, and some of the biggest activists in the LGBT community.
But what I'm saying is,
were trans black people.
Okay, but the joke is, because it is a joke.
Yeah,
and the joke is that if trans would have been really just a black and brown people thing, we wouldn't be having it, Like I said, it's not funny the way I'm saying it.
Yeah,
but he said it in a snappy way, like a joke. That was it. That was the joke.
I think it's also disingenuous when you try to pass these things off as just jokes when there's clearly his actual opinion, like heavily influences his jokes. Like that's so clear, because like half of the shit he says in his new specials is not jokes. It's just him trying to it's him just trying to tell you how he feels about shit, and then he's funny sometimes. And he's really funny when he's funny, but I don't think
the new special.
I didn't watch the new special.
Yeah, the new special's all jokes.
I'm like burnt out.
But the thing is, even the last one, yeah, I got tired because it was just too many trans jokes, because it's all the same kind of jokes. And it was almost a retaliation because he got pushed back on the other one. I do agree with that.
Yeah, but he did like 3 times now. It's like his 4th special with
That's
trans jokes.
I do agree with you with that, where if it would be me, if I'd say, all right, let me think about it, and I'd think about it and be like, you know what, this is just someone choosing to be offended. What I would have done is I would have said nothing. I would have never acknowledged anything. I mean, if you really feel like you said nothing wrong, and I would have just gone on with my regular silly thing. I wouldn't have been like, oh, they don't like that? Well, I'm going to give them a whole special of trans jokes. Like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. If this is a really funny joke and it happens to be about trans people, okay, I'll tell it. But he has prefaced tons of times, like, trans people are human beings and they deserve all the same rights as everyone else and deserve to be treated as human beings.
Yeah, but then he loves to have a little but after that and then make a joke, which like completely, but somewhat negates the things he just said. Because
not really.
It depends on, I guess we'd have to like be looking at the material.
Because he's
I just remember hearing him say shit like, finally he said something good, and then he said something else. I'm like, come on, dude.
Because he says this, and then he goes to treat trans people like he treats everyone else in his act.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
Yeah, but
that's everyone.
I mean, he's been doing this for 30 years.
I also like think that Dave Chappelle. A lot of people don't realize that Dave Chappelle has never been poor. He's never been like he's never struggled in his entire life. Like other than the fact that he's black and has those struggles, which obviously,
he grew up in DC with crack going on.
But he had like upper middle class family, and then fucking has been doing comedy since he was like 13. So as soon as he got successful in comedy, like he just started being rich, and then that's been him, and now he's like filthy rich. And so what we know of Dave Chappelle, his whole like experience for the last 30 years has been wealth, and like that's his people now. And so it's like that's the only people whose side he's on, and that's why he's able to punch down everywhere, every direction. It's because he is above everybody. Like he does have more power than everybody.
I don't care about any of that. When I watch comedy, I put it on, and it makes me laugh for an hour.
Okay, but you're acting like when people do jokes, they're not talking about.
It always makes me laugh.
Yeah, sure, but like when I put on a special. Like I am not so like I'm not so like obtuse as to act like I don't think that this person's opinions aren't part of it. Like that is so much a big part of most comedians like getting on stage, and they have something to say, and they just want to make you laugh while they're saying it. But that doesn't mean what they're saying isn't from their heart. And the idea that it's all coming from just jokes is just, I think that's disingenuous.
But
I think
a few minutes ago, you just said you tell jokes that you don't even believe.
Yeah, my shit is absurdism. Like my shit is
Dave Chappelle is absurdism. Dave Chappelle's one of the most absurd comedians
when he's being
ever.
absurd, then that's obvious. But that's not his. Are you telling me that his last 4 specials were absurdist comedy?
The new one for the most part, except towards the end.
He hasn't been an absurdist comic since his show, like since Chappelle's show.
It was very absurd. The first 4 specials he dropped after he came back from Africa and all that were the most absurd fucking things.
I mean, there might have been
seen.
Absurd moments, but I don't think of Dave Chappelle as an absurdist comic because he so often talks about things I agree with. So what is that bullshit? Like no.
Well, so here the thing that really stands out here is that we at least should acknowledge at this point that when you hear somebody tell a joke, you can't really ever know for sure. It's sometimes we all kind of feel like that's really convincing. I really kind of feel like he's just speaking from the heart there. There's no irony in what he's saying at that moment, but you don't know for certain.
What John's getting at here, though, I don't totally disagree with. There is a thing you're touching on that I think is a mistake he is making, is that in the middle of a bunch of absurd, funny things you're just saying to be funny, like he never stopped doing that. But at a certain point, he did start interjecting the way he really feels about things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake.
I don't know if it's a mistake, just own it. Like you can do both things in the same set, but don't act like it's all just jokes because that's clearly not the case.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when he said, if he makes a joke, right? Like say he makes a joke about trans people and people are like, oh, that's a hateful joke. It came from the heart. And he's like, oh no, I'm just joking. But they're like, well, what about this other thing? Oh yeah, I meant that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then they're like, okay, you know what I'm saying?
And my issue,
that's why like for me, I'll say whatever I think is funny, and I always try to be as ambiguous as I can. Even if I'm gonna make like if I make jokes about police or whatever, you know what I mean? Even if I believe what the joke is, I'm really just saying it because it's funny. I will say something that can go completely against my beliefs if I think that's funny.
Yeah, and
but I never go on stage. That is a thing. Sometimes he will go on stage and will start telling you his opinions with no jokes. So now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and he'll throw a joke in every now and then. So now it's like, okay, now that gets confusing now because so now it's like where
and then the opposite, like okay, the opposite effect. It's like if you like challenge George Carlin on something he said. George Carlin spoke with conviction, and if someone on the right got offended by his criticism of them, he wouldn't be like, it's just jokes. And he'd be like, no, you fucking suck. Like, that's why I said that. You were a terrible person. But there's no ownership of what he's saying. And he's like, and so when he gets criticism, it's just jokes. But How about just be like, I feel this way. This is how I feel.
It depends on what the truth is of that specific thing. Because if George Carlin does say a thing that's just a joke and someone comes after him, what's he supposed to say?
I mean, like but George Carlin.
If it is just a joke,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. It's just that like that's not the theme that he set.
He could be saying it's just a joke because the truth is it is just a joke.
Sure.
But yeah, I agree. It's confusing once you stop telling jokes and then you get on a pulpit for a little while and then you go back to telling jokes. Right. It can get confusing for people.
You're blurring the lines.
You're blurring the lines a lot.
And again, like it's okay to do that, but then when people are confused, you have to like understand why.
Yeah, he is causing some of the, that's what I'm saying. He's causing some of this confusion himself.
Yeah,
right,
and it's
by
like
doing that.
Yeah,
right.
and I don't know, man. I think like Daniel Tosh, for example, now his shit is like completely absurd. Like he doesn't get on stage and say anything that he actually feels for the most part. And if it is something he actually feels, it's like
you'll never know.
You'll never know because it's awful.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've always wanted to be like. Where I don't want people to be able to tell like which jokes are real life experiences and which are just fucking totally made up lies, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just want people. I want people to automatically assume that whatever I'm saying, I'm full of shit.
Right. And so, yes. And me too. And like, I want to get up there and make people laugh. That's all I care about. And I think that for me, that's why I like the term punching up and down and sideways, is because it gives me parameters to write within. And I am more confident that I am going to upset, or like I'm going to have more fans if I punch only up and sideways, if at all. And if I'm punching down, it needs to be absurd. Like, it needs to be, like, obviously, like, okay, like, for making fun of Don, for being in a wheelchair. Like, Don's my friend, and, like, everybody in the room that night pretty much knew that I was just doing that because I was bombing on stage and was looking for it out. And then I immediately acknowledged that that's what I was doing, like, and that it's bad, you know? And, and I think that that's, I don't know. So, what I was saying about Daniel Tosh is that when he did the rape joke, that, you know, it wasn't recorded, it was just reported on. And then like he did the joke, and then this lady shouted out like, you shouldn't say that, and then she like stormed out or whatever, and he was like, wouldn't it be funny if that lady got, you know, raped by like 12 guys on the way home or something like that. And you know, didn't really, I don't know, like it you had to be there for sure. Because that's not a funny thing to say. But also he didn't double down on it. He didn't release 3 specials about rape, like about why he should be able to say rape jokes.
And I think anyone with a little bit of sense of humor would understand that if that did happen, he wouldn't think it's funny. He'd be like, oh my God, that's horrible.
Right, exactly.
And I'm pretty sure if we had been there, the 3 of us in the moment, I think we all would have laughed at that. If it was, you know what I mean? Where it's like when she goes, like, wouldn't it be funny at the time? Because
I would have definitely
like,
I would have laughed because this woman is getting like the fact that she came to a Daniel Tosh show and paid money for Daniel Tosh and then got mad at a rape joke is just so absurd to me. Like, maybe she didn't know who he was, but like at that time he was already famous.
It's kind of hard to stumble into a Daniel Tosh show.
Yeah, and it's like, even if you go in not liking rape jokes, you're just not gonna laugh when you hear one. Like, you don't have to. You're not gonna fucking yell at him. But
which is actually a better way to get people to stop telling jokes we don't like them to tell. Is if we stop laughing at them, they'll stop telling them. Yeah, and
like, you know, and comedy's a lot like, you know, like the scientific method in that if you can repeat that same joke in front of multiple different audiences, that joke works. And if you can only get shitbags to laugh at your joke, but every other venue it bombs, that joke doesn't work. That joke is more offensive than it is funny. Yeah. And only like fucking edgelords want to hear it. You know, and that's probably some of my shit too. Like, that's probably a lot of my shit. I haven't been able to go very far.
Yeah, I want it. I want it to be funny. I want it to be funny to as many people as I can be funny to without being bad or pandering. Because there gets a certain point. If you want to get the most fans, you make the shittiest thing.
Yeah.
Because most people are stupid and they like shitty things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
I hate pandering so much. like I almost like anti-pander. Like I try to tell jokes that make it clear that I am not trying to pander to people. And like there's no disrespect to Tyler, but when he says the thing about like sex work is real work, I'm like, all right, like, we all agree that sex work is real work, but like who are you talking to here? Who do you think is gonna like fight you on that? Like,
and to be honest, the whole having to say sex work is real work, I don't think us fellas, we've always been down with the sex work for the most part. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we're the ones that were doing most of the shaming of the sex work.
And I'm on antidepressants, so I know it's real work.
Yeah. But I just, you know, you ever dated a woman or like a woman you're in a relationship with go off to a bachelorette party? When they come back, dude, it's always like, it's not like when we come back and we're like, man, that was so fucking fun. They come back and like, this bitch, all weekend we had to get her to cough up her share of the hotel. And then this other bitch, she was all over this guy and she got a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Women don't get along with each other, you know? So I think that, you know, I'm not trying to point fingers on who gave all the sex workers a hard time all these years, but it ain't us.
Yeah, it's like slut shaming other women. Like,
yeah, that too. Yeah, and the slut shaming thing too. They like sometimes they like to put that on us. That's not us.
Yeah, we're the ones in secret. Like
we don't slam.
We love what you do. You know, but
And the only time, that's the thing too. Like calling women sluts. It's usually when a woman's being called a slut, it's usually by another woman. Usually when we call a woman a slut, it's because we want them to do something slutty for us and they don't want to do it, you know?
Also, before we go any further...
Not me personally.
I want to say another thing. The reason Tyler does that in his joke is because it kind of helps set up the next part because, you know, looking at Tyler, you don't know for sure. And what he's about to say also does get a reaction, a negative reaction from the crowd until he follows through, which is like he starts talking about how he doesn't want his daughter to be a stripper. And if he doesn't qualify the fact that he supports strippers somewhere, then he could lose the crowd.
We did a gig one time, and when he was starting that joke, when he was like, I don't want my daughter, he's like, I go to enough soccer practices or enough soccer games to keep her off the pole, and a trans woman walked out.
Yeah. It's so
She's
silly.
like, I'm not listening to this.
It's like, you gotta
that's when he's like, if you just stay with me.
Give him a chance, you know, walk out if the joke bombs.
It goes the other way.
Yeah, wait till the whole joke and then walk out. Like, you know.
Well, I think that comedy should be... I think people should try to keep in mind that there's when you were talking about the way that somebody like a Chappelle would sort of weave back and forth between like ironic and unironic speech and how that blurs the line and it gets confusing. I do think we also talk about audiences needing to be trained to be able to be good comedy audiences. I think that we all should just acknowledge that comedy's almost kind of like a controlled substance or something. Like it's something that should be consumed with some degree of
caution.
Yeah, just the idea that like enjoy it, go nuts, have a great time, just like cigarettes or whatever else you know, whatever you want to enjoy.
Not take it so seriously.
Like that, but also just bear in mind, you know, it's just like fire or anything else that's awesome. You know, you do have to kind of, you can't be too careless with like, you can't just wander into any comedy show and assume that you're going to be safe from hearing anything that might be a problem.
Especially at an open mic. And I think that when there's a lot less room for criticism at open mics because the whole point is we're trying to figure out if this is okay to say. And like, you don't always know that. And like, you don't even know to question it. Like, you don't even know to start questioning it until it bombs. And you're like, okay, well, why did that bomb?
Right.
What did I say? What do people like? What is the psychology of this situation? You know, and sometimes you can't know that until you do the shitty joke. And I think that short of saying the hard R N word, I think open mic should be like a pretty free for all. Like if you feel like you've got a way to say something that, you know, might be borderline homophobic, but in a way that redeems it, then I think you should be allowed to try it. And if it fails, you know, I think that, okay, just don't do it again. Like, you know, just like that, you know, to scrap it or fix it. Yeah. And that's all it is.
And open mics too, you got to have all kind of different kinds of comedians too.
But when you're at a paid show, when you paid tickets, there's a little less room for them to say something you're offended by because you paid money and then this person has been doing mics and decided that that joke is worth telling to a paying audience, and maybe it isn't good, you know, like maybe it isn't good and they were reinforced the wrong way, or maybe it bombed. They're like, no, this is good. I got to wait until I'm in front of a paying audience. They'll like it, you know, shit like that. And then people get offended, and I can understand when they walk out. But if you come to an open mic, you better like be on, like, you just grain of salt, everybody, please.
Yeah, and it's not, you don't have the luxury of curating a show to an audience at an open mic. You know, it's all these different people that do different kinds of comedy. When you have there are people that like different kinds of comedy, and that's fine. Like some people, like, they don't like a bunch of filthy stuff or cursing and all that, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And they have shows. It's why, like, Nate Bargatze, his openers have to be clean. It's not that he has a problem with filthy comedy. I mean, he's friends with Ari Shaffir and all these people. He sees the humor in it, but it's the whole thing is like, if you buy tickets to see Nate Bargatze, they might not like Ari Shaffir before, you know what I mean? I mean,
no, for sure.
They might.
They wouldn't like me.
But they might not. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, or you.
Right.
Or
I've been playing with my clean stuff. I've been realizing that a lot of my shit that I think is dirty isn't if I tweak it a little bit. But
yeah, I'm starting to get more not dirty stuff.
So
I changed opinions on doing clean comedy since I've started doing comedy.
Yeah, now that I have more clean material, I'm starting to change my...
Yeah, same. It's like, I'm not doing clean shows because I haven't written anything clean. But
see, I grew up where I was always kind of like, I have these abilities, whether it be music or whatever that I was doing. And I always kind of was, because I grew up in church, I always kind of felt like I had this choice I needed to make. Like, I could go into sort of Christian entertainment realm, and even though that's not necessarily what I want to do, I would be okay making all kinds of clean choices with my music to keep myself appealing to that sort of audience. Or I could, you know, maybe go the secular route and just try to be an entertainer in the commercial realm, and always kind of feeling like I could kind of go either way. I feel like if I could get an audience, I just would probably cater to whatever they want, because I just grew up with that weird division right down the middle. But I can't imagine being in the position of just choosing to do clean without there being like a reason. So it does make me wonder, like, did Nate develop that organically, and then when he started to develop this big audience of people that just picked up on, like, oh, there's nothing bad,
you know
about
what
this.
I think it is? I think, like, because people give Nate a lot of credit for being so good at writing such great clean jokes, and I always did too, but I've started thinking about it. Not to take any credit away from Nate Bargatze. I think he's a fucking hilarious comedian. I love him. But I think we're looking at that from our own perspective, where that seems hard to us.
Because that's not what we do.
We don't think that,
that's
we're
how
filthy
people tell
motherfuckers.
me, like, one-liners are like, it's so crazy you can do one-liners. And I'm like, what you do is impossible for me. Like, I can't do long-form comedy and have any fun. Like,
Nate Bargatze is a guy with two loving parents who are still together, always went to church, still goes to church. I think in his personal life, I don't think he uses a lot of profanity.
Yeah.
I don't think he talks dirty. So when he's going to go to write jokes, that's going to be what comes out. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to start writing a bunch of filthy jokes because he doesn't have a filthy sense of humor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not like Bob Saget pretending to be clean for a sitcom and then being filthy.
Like Bob Saget was, Bob Saget was clean to get work.
Yeah, exactly. Also, okay, so that's what I wanted to say. My opinion changed on clean comedy for the same reason that I like the punching parameters. I like the idea of, like, challenging myself to either write clean or change my jokes to be clean and still be good. Like, I like that little challenge. And to me, like, that's my whole position on cancel culture and everything. It's like, challenge accepted, you know? Like, if you're saying we can't say anything anymore, I'm up here saying stuff and people are laughing. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm the same way with that. The whole thing about, like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that, it really isn't true. You can say whatever you want. The expectations are higher, though. You know what I mean? Where you're gonna have to make it. You're gonna have to make it better. You know, I hear comedians sometimes say jokes and they'll say fag, and sometimes it's the way the joke is. Sometimes it is like that is the funniest word to use there.
Yeah, I have a joke that I haven't done in a while because it is the funniest word.
But
to
it's
use.
not. But it's not a word like I've heard. Like the thing about people like, oh, we can't say fag no more. Like I've never felt that, and I don't feel the need to say it. But if something ever pops in my head and it is the funniest thing to say, I will do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, but
yeah, I think that I do too.
And like I said, like with anything, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like it or is upset about it. For the most part, though, as a comedian, if you do your job well and you're good at it, you will have a funny joke and people are going to like it because it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with your overall premise that the idea of punching down implies a hostility or an aggression that's not there for you. And I completely agree with John's position that you can say whatever you want and you just need to be prepared that actions have consequences and that people can respond kind of however they want to whatever you do. And you just have to be prepared for that and don't go bitching and whining when, you know, maybe you get some hot water for something that you said, because we're all up here being a little reckless with our speech, even when we're doing it really well.
Yeah. Okay. I want to add a final note. Man. Okay. So when I tell a joke and people get offended, that is just some silly shit to me because I know how ridiculous the shit I write is. So like that Down syndrome joke I do, there's like a guy who I heard him say that's fucked up after I did it. And I just ignored it. Cause like if you think that joke is like, if you are upset at that joke, I don't care about your opinion. And I think with like Dave Chappelle and other people, it's like, if you really believed in your joke and you really thought that the people who are upset are so ridiculous, why are you even giving them the time of day?
Yeah, right. That's kind of what I was saying earlier too. I would have just keep moving.
It's like
on.
There's insecurity there for him too. Like there's clearly
you've given me something to think about.
It's either that, like an insecurity thing, or it's cashing in on
pandering. Yeah,
it's cashing in on the fact that there's buzz. And that people are going to go watch the special just to see. They're going to go watch it either just out of curiosity. Well, let's go see what he says because it's showing up on my timeline. Or people are going to go watch it to defend them, or they're going to watch it to attack them or whatever. Either way, he's getting more views on Netflix.
Yeah. I also, it's trippy to me when people are like, when he stormed off stage, they're like, oh, well, if you're trying to sell your material, blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, he already got paid. Like, he's already been paid. He's not trying to sell his material. No matter what happens at those shows, that material's still going on Netflix, and he's still a millionaire. They're not taking his money back.
Yeah, I would maybe threw that guy out.
Yeah, for sure. But he was like towards the end, and so like he probably just didn't feel like going through the trouble at the end of the show. But
I didn't realize that was towards the end.
I just know that if any one of us or like any lesser comedian had done that, if Matt Rife fucking did that, we'd all be calling him an egomaniac throwing a temper tantrum. But because Dave Chappelle stormed off, it's like, well, I see where he's coming from. There's people. Right. It's like, bro, this dude has got no problems in the world. There's no reason for him to be that upset about anything. Like, he's rich.
This was not a special taping. This was just a show he was at.
Yeah, it was just a show. And he locked up people's phones. The dude probably snuck one in. Like, that shit's annoying. I totally agree. I also, when I'm already paid, don't care. Like, if they already paid me.
I don't agree with the whole punishing the whole rest of the people. He does like arena shows. Like, so you're going to punish all these other people.
Well, and he's got so much money that if they want refunds, he can afford it. If they like whatever he has, there's no consequences for this man anymore ever again. Like, he's fine. So it's like whatever he wants to do now, that's what he wants to do. Like, no one's making him do anything anymore.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so like it's hard for me to feel any kind of sympathy. Like, woe is me. Like, the dude can never be canceled. Even Louis C.K. is not canceled. Like, yeah, maybe he doesn't get specials anymore, but he's always going to make money anytime he decides to do a tour.
Yeah, he does. He can do his own specials.
Yeah, yeah, maybe he doesn't. Yeah, he was already doing that before he got canceled, which was an admirable thing. God, I loved that dude before. That shit pissed me off. It's like, it's so easy not to be like that.
Yeah, that was a bad thing. Yeah.
It was always a little confusing. Like, his particular thing has always been confusing to me.
What, like that he would do that? Like,
well, I'm naive, and so I don't, when I found that out, I was like, that's not something I ever would have imagined he was into as a fetish or whatever in the first place. But then also just like, why would you do something so risky, but and it's weird to me that like I guess I'm just realizing I'm just not as compassionate as I thought I was, because I'm more like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would,
I think
as opposed to those poor people.
Yeah.
I think
Dude, and I remember when that shit was
you're empathizing with the comedian.
When that shit was going on, we had people from like, there was like a guy who like books New Orleans who would open for him, who was like going to bat for him hard, like saying, well, I've hung out with the 2 alleged comics who are accusing him and they didn't bring up anything about it. So I don't think that it's like, of course they didn't bring up anything about it.
Around just,
they don't,
it's not casual conversation.
And they know y'all fucking idolize these people, so they're not going to feel safe talking about it to you. Like,
that's kind of what Me Too's all about.
I think that if I think that's like my biggest pet peeve in comedy is like the idolatry of these comedians. Like, I think it's great to recognize when someone is good at their craft. And to that end, Dave Chappelle is amazing at his craft. Like, the dude can write. The dude is a good thinker. I think he's great. I think he's great at what he does. I don't agree with his opinions, and those things are 2 separate things for me. But I don't think that after Louis, I stopped idolizing any comedian, because they're all fucking one jack off incident away.
I don't idolize anyone.
Like, and I think that's so, for me, whenever people like, you know, feign like worship for these comedians, like even if they're doing it ironically, it just, to me, that makes me cringe. Just like, they don't deserve that. And they probably, like, the ones who want that deserve it the least to me. Like, if you get any satisfaction out of people saying they worship you, I don't like you. Like, that's just so cringe.
I don't like hero worship, and I think it's just so fucking cringe when you can start to see where somebody's crossed that line into where they lose objectivity on somebody that they like.
Yeah,
I don't even like God worship.
I don't like any kind of worship.
I don't even agree with it. Like, to me, even that's crazy. To like worshiping God, like God's supposed to be like the most like omnipotent and like morally correct thing, and then he's like, y'all are all supposed to worship, and it's like,
it's like, why is he so insecure? Like, why does he need that so bad?
Yeah, and there's even a thing about like
chilled God.
Like this was, I was watching, it was about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and this is, you know, Muslim, but it's still the same basic thing where it's like, and you know, we used to be slaves, but now we're not going to be slaves to man. We'll be slaves to God. I'm like, wait a minute. If a slave owner is like the worst thing in the world,
you could say anything in church and make it a parable.
Like,
it's like,
like
let's get raped by Jesus tonight, guys. Like, and then they'll be like, hallelujah.
So
you know?
God's great, but he's also a slave owner. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, no, it's so silly.
You know,
so worshiping human beings is so flawed. You know, it doesn't make sense to worship anyone.
Well, here's the only thing I'll say about, and I really don't like defending anything having to do with the shit that I came from, but I will say this.
I also came from that, by the way.
The more, I definitely, I was
maybe not as
recently,
earlier. But
right, but I'm with you on that. The only thing I'll say is that when you start moving beyond like any particular world religion, and you start getting more into the sort of spiritual kind of stuff, the DMT, all the experiences people have on psychedelics and stuff like that. There's one thing that I think that they have noticed that aligns with what a lot of people say about God. I've thought about that so many times. Like, why is God so insecure that he needs us to worship him? And the only pushback I've heard that ever made any sense about that was that it's actually for us. Like, we are actually so much better off. Not worshiping
that
God.
Actually, from my experience with Christianity, that makes a lot more sense. Like,
because there is
that's a pretty fair pushback.
If you
I'm Christian again.
The whole thing about like service to others except for yourself, or what, it's to take the, I understand that it's to take the focus off of yourself, and if you do service for others instead of always servicing yourself, then you'll get
I'll service myself in about an hour.
Yeah, then
I've serviced myself at church.
Be happier,
yeah, no, for sure. And that's cool.
Making jokes during my
I really wanted to actually, can we go back, and I'm actually going to cut out the part where we were joking.
You said it way better than
we're going to cut the jokes out of the comedy podcast.
I was tagging what you were saying anyway. You said it way better than me.
We ruined the comedy podcast with jokes.
With God.
We're going to cut them out. I'm going to get this back to the serious note we're going for.
God. You know, somebody has like some kind of podcast network that's for Christians called Godcast. There's got to be, right?
Yeah,
that's got to be a thing already.
It better be.
Anyhow,
it should be.
If not, we can start
It's
it.
probably just about really rich comedians. Godcast.
We should have called this pod Godcast.
The first 7 was like reference to Genesis. Thank you. I do Bible jokes. I keep looking at the camera.
Yeah. I feel like this podcast is losing steam.
This is going to be a fun episode to edit. Well, anyway, this has been fantastic.
I had a good time.
But before we wrap, we're not going to do the question, but do you have any you want to push your socials, and do you have any dates you want to promote?
Yeah. So, at JB Merrifield and everything except TikTok. I'm John B. Merrifield on TikTok. Somebody took JB Merrifield. Who the fuck? That's never happened before.
So uncool.
Yeah, stupid name to take.
Yeah. So
I would take Dave Chappelle.
If you want to see me incessantly post clips of my open mic sets and book sets and different versions of the same joke, you follow me on TikTok right the fuck now. I got the ghost roasts coming up. Honestly, I'm not going to name any specific dates. Just follow me and you'll see all that shit. And then I also have a tour coming up at the beginning of March. I'm going to be hitting a lot of shows in Houston. Got a show in El Paso, Phoenix, and then a couple dates left to book. So keep an eye out for those dates. If you're in Texas, I'll be on both sides of Texas. If you're in Arizona, I'll be in Phoenix and maybe somewhere else.
Bisexual.
And then if you're like
That
Charles,
sounded funnier in my head. I'm sorry.
check my itinerary.
Because he said both sides of Texas.
You too. All right. Well, you guys keep plugging away at it, and we'll see you next week.